Good morning, good evening, good day, whatever it is, you're in the right place. Pelicans Daily presented by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Dylan Bruton. Make sure, like, share, subscribe. You know the drill, you know the format, you know the routine. All right, let's get right into it. Let's talk about those Pelicans. So, I've talked about guys on the team who were, unheralded, didn't have the same kind of pedigree, didn't have that same type of name, but yet showed impact. Look no further than Antonio Reeves. Now, I ended my last video talking about us potentially picking up a second round pick. Why is that? We got a guy like Antonio Reeves last year in the second round. Very good player. You know what I'm saying? Averaged, about 7 a game, a board, assists, but the efficiency across the board 46% from the field, 39 from three, 85 from the free throw line. Those are very efficient numbers. In his last 7 games of the year, he averaged 17, 2 and 2 in 33 minutes a game. And this was as a result of, all the various injuries, all the different turmoil that was going on. But, you know, he stepped up. And that's the thing that, granted, he's a older player, right? Which is crazy to say. He's 24 going on 25. Played his first part of his college career at Illinois State and then went to Kentucky and became, was able to really elevate his name. But even with him being a more seasoned player, the kid has still plenty of time to excel and shine. I mean, sorry, not the kid. The young man. The young man still has plenty of time. And given that we're a team that's trying to figure out who's going to be on the team, who's the personnel that we have to really look into trying to develop, it always helps when you got homegrown talent. You know what I'm saying? Almost like you're hiring from within. And I feel like Antonio Reeves is a player who I think has a lot of skill. I think has a lot of refinement in his game already, and it should only increase. And while we're figuring out, what we're gonna do with DeJounte, we're figuring out what happens with CJ. You've got a guy who has the size of a DeJounte and has the skill set of a CJ. That makes for a very dynamic type of player. And whether he's put in the starting lineup, he's probably going to come off the bench. But if you got a guy like that coming off your second unit, coming off the bench, you're doing well. Given we've had bench scoring problems, right? The more depth, the better. So, it was an article written by our guy Chris Lambert, and he was really talking in detail. And short answer, I think so. I agree. You know what I'm saying? I think the biggest takeaway that I had from his rookie year was that he became a better shot creator and play initiator as the season progressed. He got more comfortable in it. He got forced into the role with the DeJounte injury, and yet he didn't miss a beat. He played very well. So I would love to see in the year 2025, 2026, once we figure out what we're doing with our guards, I definitely would like to see more minutes for Antonio Reeves because I think he showed a lot of poise and promise, and hopefully Coach Green, rewards that. Speaking of rewards, though, so we got to talk about Bryson Graham, the one-time GM, long-time employee, you know what I'm saying, who is now went for, I don't want to say greener pastures, but went for different pastures. So I talked before about that NOLA and that ATL sports rivalry is deep. And let it be known, them Hawks, they got Bryson Graham, and he's going to become their senior executive VP. And honestly, I just want to say his story. I was reading through his story is very inspiring. I mean, he literally was when he first joined the Pelicans back when they were the Hornets in 2010. He was getting them coffee. He was unloading boxes. So to go from that to becoming part of the decision making, to then becoming becoming a GM, then becoming senior executive VP, that's all I could say. Salute to that brother for real. You know, and what a way to go out. Drafted Eve Missy for us this past year. And Eve Missy turned out to be a really good pickup for us. You know what I'm saying? All rookie second team. Looks like a guy that potentially could be a cornerstone. You know, I would like to see where Eve Missy's potential, goes. Bryson Graham was a former player himself, played collegiate ball out at A&M. And I wish him the best of luck, you know what I'm saying, out in Atlanta. But now, right, so Bryson Graham is out as GM. Now, and mind you, President Dumars was vocal about he wanted to, he wanted to see Graham there and develop. Like Dumars, President Dumars hasn't really cleaned out a lot of staff. He's brought in only a guy who I'm about to name, but you've heard me talk about before, Troy Weaver, right? He hasn't really been like coming in with trying to rule an iron fist and trying to disrupt the flow, disrupt the copaestheticness. But this puts a lot more pressure on Troy Weaver because now he will be responsible with the scouting, with the looking at players. But as I expressed, with his pedigree, it's the same guy who scouted Melo coming out of high school, same guy who scouted Russell Westbrook coming out of college before he became what we know, what we know him as in his prime and still in the league. And the current Pistons team with Cade, with Jalen Dern, with Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, Jaden Ivey. That was through the basketball mind of Mr. Troy Weaver. So this puts a lot more pressure on Troy Weaver, but pressure busts pipes and it also makes diamonds. If there's the type of pressure that Mr. Weaver is going to need, it's going to be in helping us field the most competitive and strongest roster possible. And that comes with assessing, developing, and looking at the true fit of where certain player personnel lies. Now, that is a tall task. And his win percentages in some of the seasons have been a little rough. But I mean, this man pulled off 3 first-round picks for the Wizards this last year with Keyshawn George, Bud Carrington, and the number 2 overall pick, Alexander Sarr. I'm willing to see what Troy Weaver can do. Can you cook up something special? This is a very talented draft. Last year's draft, yeah, teams were a little bit more willing to give up picks because the class wasn't as talented. But you able to get us another pick or two more picks? All right, let the man cook. Let the man cook. So just something to consider. Salute to Bryson Graham. Even though we went 21-61, I can't pin that on him. You know what I'm saying? He did his best to field a competent roster in year one. And to go from being the guy, going from getting the donuts to you're telling the coach what players that are going to be on this roster, you're in the driver's seat. I got to salute that. Just off GP, I got to respect that. So best of luck to him in Atlanta. Words I never thought I would say. But best of luck to him in Atlanta. But most importantly, I think that it puts the necessary and the right prerequisite pressure for Troy Weaver. So stay tuned. But I think he's going to do something special with this. So, now, speaking of special players or players who have a special skill set, mind you, y'all have heard me talk about the potential possibility and prospect of us losing Herb Jones. I don't want that to happen. I don't. I love, love Herb. That's my guy. You know what I'm saying? Herbert, that dude. But I'm not the one in charge. Bryson Graham is no longer the one in charge. Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars are. So that's going to be on them. That's going to be on them and the rest of the higher upper management staff. But a player that Pelicans debrief talked about, and I also, to give credit to the Bryson Graham story that came from Rod Wallace, who, also has done some great stories over at NOLA.com. Y'all go check it out. But Pelican debrief, our guy Chris Lambert, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, at this point, I need to give him a call and tell him, hey, yo, man, pop on the show. Let's talk. Let's talk about those Pelicans. But he put forth an article with a, potential trade idea and involving Keon Ellis from the Sacramento Kings. Now, Keon Ellis is a very unique player. 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan, 25 years old. Averaged last year 8 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, a block, nearly 49% shooting, just about 43% from 3 and 85 from the free throw line. I mean, when you look across the board, that's just a very complete player, a guy that could do just about everything. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. He's got the ability to play bigger than his size. He's got the ability to play great on-ball and off-ball defense. And he's great, recovering from the weak side. So I don't want to give up Herb. I do not. I don't. But if we do lose Herb, we have to think about life after Herb. We have to think about who is a player comparable that's going to have that type of defensive impact, who's going to be able to keep the defense honest as well, spacing the floor. And this was a very interesting trade that I saw. Now, this might be overkill, but y'all let me know. But in this trade, we would trade with the Kings. We would trade with them for Keon Ellis. And in return, they would get Jordan Hawkins, which, y'all know me, man. I'm still a Jayhawk believer. Still. But 33% from 3 is not going to cut it if you were drafted to be a sharpshooter. Unfortunately, it's a results-driven league. But Jayhawk is my guy. I'm really rooting for him. I'm really hoping that he becomes that type of shooting guard that he was projected to be coming out of UConn. And then a Pacers, one of our first round picks for next year from the Pacers. This might, I don't know. It's tough because it's like Keon has more, he brings more value. I still think Jordan Hawkins has a higher ceiling, though. So it's kind of tough because it's like you pick your poison. Do you go for the player who you insert the lineup now? You know what his role is going to be. You know what type of impact he's going to bring. Or do you keep the player who can develop into something really, really special if he puts it all together? That's a very difficult dilemma here. And the 2026 class, as I've talked about, is very strong. So there is a lot to consider with this. There is a lot to ponder and pontificate about. But I think it's willing to look into. I think so. Especially, knock on wood, we somehow lose Herb. You need to have another stud defender that teams are going to be on the lookout for. And Keon Ellis has shown in his 3 years in the league that he's that type of defender. You know what I'm saying? He played a big role, just like how Herb played a big role for the Pelicans. Keon played a big role for the Kings in them getting back to a playoff bid. And this past year, they were just outside of the play, and they were at the 11th spot. So you need those guys who know how to win. You need those guys who know what it takes. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It might be a little bit overkill, might be, but, food for thought, something to think about. Then, last but never the least, should we move up in this draft? Now, y'all have heard me give my perspective on different players. Y'all have heard me go down the whole scouting report, talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, their stats, their best games versus who, whatever, and who are they comparable to in the NBA. Should we move up in this draft? I saw an article on Sixers Wire today by Kai Corlin, and rumor is word around town, and this is through Kevin O'Connor from Yahoo. The Sixers are looking to trade down. And given President Dumars is very much feeling Mr. Ace Bailey from Rutgers, we might be able to get Ace Bailey. You know, you never know. You never know. Now, right now with the draft order, you know what I'm saying? Because you got Dallas, you got San Antonio, you got Philly at 3, you got Charlotte at the 4, Utah at the 5, Washington at 6, and then you got us. It's going to be very interesting to see what teams are going to be trying to move. Dallas, they're not moving. They're not budging. It's Cooper Flag time. That's do the smart thing. Pick up the kid Cooper Flag. Don't even think twice about it. San Antonio though, San Antonio right now has a lot to figure out because they're like, yo, yeah, we could just go out and get Dylan Harper, but we already got Stephon Castle, who's the rookie of the year this past year, and we got De'Aaron Fox, who we traded for during the deadline, and is a top 10 point guard. Easy. But then after that, Philly, it's like Philly on paper still has a roster that could be competitive. But likely they need to blow it up. Likely. But are they going to? Who knows? Charlotte, no man's land. There's no other way to put it. Outside of my son LaMelo, they ain't really got a hope or a chance in the world. And Brandon Miller. Outside of them two, it's a little rough. I'm generalizing here, but that's, they got them two going. They got them two. Everything else is a little rough. Utah really has no idea what they're doing. I'm gonna keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? They don't know if they're looking at, is Colin Sexton a player that they want to build around? Keyword want to build around. I love Colin Sexton from my class. You know what I'm saying? Dude was like probably the best, like just pure bucket getter one-on-one of my graduating year. But it doesn't look like they view him in that franchise light. He would have been gotten those like Donovan Mitchell type of play calls and just that sort of catering to. They got other young guys like, Keontae George, who I think is a lot of promise. He's got to work on his efficiency. Then you got Walker Kessler, who's one of the best defensive bigs in the league. Not much of an offensive threat, though. They don't know what they're going to do with Lauri Markkanen. And then you got Washington. Washington is also kind of figuring things out. They're actively rebuilding. I mentioned guys, I mentioned the draft picks that Troy Weaver blessed them with Sarr, Carrington, and George. They're trying to figure out the rest of that roster. When it comes to us, the Sixers want to trade us that third pick. They want to move down. It would behoove us to jump on the offer. Even though, let's say we don't move Herb, we still keep Trey. Yeah, you kind of create a bit of a logjam at the forward spot. But a player of Ace Bailey or a VJ Edgecomb's talent, you're not passing that down when you're a 21-61 team. I'm sorry. You're just not. And if you are, you shouldn't be making basketball decisions. I think it's tough because it's like, who knows? Dylan Harper might be available. There's a lot of scenarios here, or they get the pick and flip it. It's like you don't know, because Giannis, right? We talked about Giannis. We talked about KD. A lot's gonna go down this offseason. It's gonna be a very crazy one. So yeah, I don't know what y'all think. I've given y'all so many of my perspectives on players. I'm still going to be doing that, but what do y'all think? Should we bite if they cast the bait? Y'all let me know. I think it'd be worthy to, especially if someone like Dylan Harper slips. I love Ace Bailey. I think he's the best bucket getter. I think him and Trey Johnson are the best bucket getters and pure scorers in this draft. But I think Dylan Harper has the most transmittable offensive game. All of them. Any player. Even Cooper. Love the Cooper. Duke guy. That's my guy. That's my boy. But Dylan Harper looks like the real deal. I ain't just saying that because he got my name, but I'm saying like as far as coming in day one and being a 15 to 20 point scorer on efficient shooting, that looks like Dylan Harper. So we'll see. Because San Antonio doesn't necessarily need him. They might want him, but they don't need him. They don't. They probably would be better off taking Ace Bailey. So if we get that third pick, we go up and get Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper with Zion, with Eve. We keep her. We keep Trey. Woo! Watch out. Watch out. Now, that is a squad right there. That is a squad. And DeJounte coming back healthy. And guys like Brandon Boston coming off the bench. Like, watch out. CJ coming off the bench. I mean, like, you know, the possibilities are endless. Possibilities are endless here. So I think my thought is, hey, think about it. If the opportunity presents itself, do some very thorough thinking. Because opportunities like these do not come across often. They just don't. But, you know, we going to see. The NBA Finals has been very interesting so far. Thunder tied it up 1-1. Let's see what happens next. But that's going to have an impact on how teams are drafting. Make no mistake, whoever wins this Finals. Hopefully, we stick to our game plan. We develop a game plan, and we stick to it. Yeah, I'm going to say it like that. Hopefully, we do that. And hopefully, the focus is about bringing in the players that are going to transform the franchise and help build a winning culture in New Orleans. That's the goal. Ain't nothing less. Championship, that's the goal. We trying to get to a finals, be the next small market team to take that leap. So, food for thought. Food for thought. But, as always, I appreciate y'all for rocking it out with me. Love the dialogue. Love the comments. I'm going to get back to incorporating some of y'all comments into video topics. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. You know what I'm saying? And I always will give a shout out. It's the least you can do. Credit it don't cost nothing to give nobody credit. You know what I'm saying? It don't. It's just respect. It's just showing love. That's all we trying to do with this. That's the goal. But it's been an absolute blast and a ball talking ball. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, subscribe, like, share, do all that. Follow FanArch on all social media. Follow me on Instagram at Dylan_Bruton10. Stay tuned for more amazing content. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Do something nice for yourself. Do something nice for yourself. But enjoy. We got more content, more things to talk about.